Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, I am Packy. Thank you all for taking the time to be here with me today. So, I guess this is the prelude of today's video. If you're interested to see what I'm talking about, being as vague as I am, then please hang in there with me and watch what I've done with this space and why. Hello, everybody. I'm Packy. Welcome back to my Just Get Her Done series. And stay tuned for why. This is the beginning of the real journey to Tennessee. So here we go, a real whirlwind of a year. My little Nova is a senior. This is her senior prom. And we're just trying to be silly to make it not so serious that my little Nova's growing up. Through the years, she had her different award ceremony. This one happens to be for band. And then boom, bada bing, we're at graduation, where the best moments are when you can throw up your tassel hat and then turn around and try to find yours again before hugging and waving and exiting the field towards your adult life. Yay, Nova, way to go. Along this busy time frame for my daughter in high school, we managed to make several trips to Tennessee trying to find our property. A lot of times I was on them solo and had to entertain myself with singing, which you don't want to hear about that. And then you can just tell the further south you go, the more beautiful it is. This is just a quick image of that. Beautiful scenery, and you can't pass up Buc-ee's. I mean, it's the cheapest gas, the best clean bathrooms with no lines to wait in. And then, shortly thereafter, you're in Tennessee. Now, this is just one of the properties that fell through for us, but I just wanted to show you the best part of it. This is the kind of stuff that's drawn us to Tennessee. Look at that view. And look at the whole goal of eventually getting to some front porch sitting. I mean, can't have any higher goals than that. Some more beautiful scenery that we discovered in Tennessee along the way. This is a road off of the Cherahalla Skyway. And it's got some beautiful waterfalls and camping areas. And I would say the most amount of trips that I've made other than to Tennessee would be to Lowe's, which is always a hassle when you have to sort your pieces out for your new projects, which I kept on track with my projects at home as well as for my clients, trying to get those done, which is very important now to complete this list for the house, because we need to wrap this house up that I'm working on in order to put it up for sale and get a good price out of it, so that I can put that money into the property we just signed off on in Tennessee. And celebrating at Bradley's barbecue pit. And you can see I've been fitting in all of this stuff at the same time I've been. What's the earth-shattering news? Well, I've taken time off from my clients, and I'm finally done with Andy and Amy's dining set, which they loved, by the way. So let's get to it. What are we striking off this week? This is currently being used as the kitty room. It was once the craft room / office space, which is still being used technically for all three spaces. All that's left of this room for craft and office was tucked onto the one end. You can see the craft table is still there with a few supplies that still need to be organized into the rest of the house. Wow, this is the Mod Podge closet, which doesn't make sense right now, but when it was a craft room, it made perfect sense because I had built my own scrapbooking shelving system, which was a big, large shelving unit that I had Mod Podged the interior lining of each little cubby according to season, hobby, or sport, or activity. So the whole decor of this shelving unit was purposefully to organize events so that when you were in the mindset of scrapbooking, you could just go right to what you needed. And it fit perfectly within this closet so it looked really good together. Plus, when I bought the house, the previous owner left behind an antique desk that had numerous repairs that were needing to be done on it, and I went ahead and refinished it out to match the bookcase that I had already built out of raw materials. This space was perfect for crafting. The only problem was I never had any time for crafting, so it eventually became kitty space. So I went ahead and sold off my custom-made scrapbooking shelf system and the desk that I refinished to match that. Once I started making active plans for my move to Tennessee, I've just started trying to unload everything that is not necessary to transport that amount of distance. I apologize because I've already removed so much out of this room that you can't see how much was stacked in on that one end. Here we're in the garage and you can see this huge stack of stuff from the house that's getting prepared for the next trailer load to go to Tennessee. And this whole side is what came out from underneath and up the side and on top of the craft room table. And here I'm showing you I had hidden cubbies up underneath the table because you can see that depth of that face. There was plenty of room to store some stuff up in there. It went all the way across the floor underneath and all the way up the side where there was space between the table and wall. Now I just need to continue to get the rest of this stuff out of the room that isn't going to stay. And I am having plans on remaking this craft table back into something that would go underneath the bed that it went to, but instead of being a trundle, since it's cut in half now, it would be pull-out storage. So I need to go ahead and remove everything, break this table down, and get it out of here. This big long piece of glass I will never need again. So I'm going to take the time and get it to our local glass cutter place and get it cut into 3 sections of 24 by 24 because I think that's a safe standard to go with to like protect tabletops or whatnot for future projects. I had to, of course, go ahead and remove my Supernova collage and clean off all the glue from this piece so it can be converted how I want to. And I already told you that these legs were not done properly, so that was a learning lesson, and now I know how to do these things better. Now that all of this is removed from the space, we're looking at the walls, and overall, they don't visually look bad from a distance. It looks kind of like a nice clean space. But once you get up close, you can see all these imperfections. These are air holes left from my last quick skim over when I first moved in because we spent so much time. Let me backtrack. These walls, they're not, I don't know how to explain this. I'm not a professional contractor, so this is just what it seems like it has been to me based on how I've been going through the different layers in different rooms. I spend a lot of time on Supernova's room and my room because that's where we were going to have our decompression zones. So it needed to be visually appealing and stimulating or calming for us. In those rooms, I spent a lot of time peeling layer by layer off the surface, trying to get to a good flat working space to start with. And I got through all the layers of this engineered, glued on wallpaper because these walls, they're not drywalled and then somebody wallpapered and then it's easy to use a steamer to get the wallpaper off. No, these were walls that were engineered in a factory. Paneling was put on them that already had wallpaper design on it, which means it was a different kind of glue that was used, and it was hard to get that off using steamer, whatever, it didn't matter. It pulls off things that are underneath it, and you just kept getting deeper and deeper, even to the point of splintering the fiberboard of whatever paneling was underneath. So in Nova's room and my room, I went through all of that hassle, and something that I thought when we first moved in was going to take like a week to get done took like a month and a half to 2 months, that we were living out in the family room and living room where the bedrooms were set up because these spaces were such a cluster for trying to refinish. So when it got to this room, it wasn't as high of a priority, and I didn't want to go all the way back as low as I could get to get a fresh start because I discovered that never gave me a fresh start. I still had to skim over everything and try to smooth everything out. So in this particular room, I tried to just quickly skim coat over, trying to fade away some of the imperfection of level changes from where wallpaper had been attempted to be removed and wasn't successful, and different glue texturing left behind. Well, honestly, I thought I was just going to fill in nail holes and air bubble holes, but then I got to looking at and seeing these textural problems still with the wallpaper, where it is and where it is not, and glue zones left behind, that I brought in my supervisor, my mom, and we both agreed, yeah, take the time, skim coat it again. And so I tried to address all of the problem areas that I missed the first time and go from there. Actually, you can see what I'm talking about smoothing out by looking at the mud while it's drying. There's highs and lows, and you can see the highs where you see the wall color coming through, and obviously the lows is where the mud is thicker, filling in the void, and therefore you don't see the wall color. I also need to fit in doing the finishing coats of paint to the trim. You can see that the nail holes that previously have been filled never were covered with a layer of paint, so are very noticeable. That all needs to be rectified. And this door has a slight sticky point in it, which is more noticeable in high humid weather, even though we run a dehumidifier. But I'm going to go ahead and rectify this so the door opens and closes more smoothly. I'm using an 80 grit sanding disc so I can take away a couple layers of the wood that are on the jamb side, and I'll also take away a little bit of layer on the door edge. And you can see when I'm shutting it, it's mainly when the front edge and the jamb come together that it's tight. After it's all the way into the jamb and flush, there looks to be plenty of space. So it's really just that rotation in. So I'm going to focus more on the front edge of the door panel. Just like you've seen me do in Nova's room, I'm using a very worn sanding disc so I can do this part of the job very quickly. So here I'm showing you high spots where you can see the wall color coming through, where the middle of the mud is or near the edges, where you can see the wall color coming through. Those are all of the really high spots that I was trying to even along here like this and through up here. That is the difference between where wallpaper was left and painted over and the glue was left and painted over, and that's what we're trying to cover up. This is Sherwin-Williams Fawn Brindle in Cashmere Low Luster. I love the Cashmere Low Luster in bedrooms and living spaces. It goes on smooth and it's a comfy finish look for those kind of spaces. This fawn brindle color has tendencies towards the browns as well as the grays. Therefore, whomever is going to be coming into this space should be able to make this work for them. The life of a spoiled kitty cat. I skipped over showing this step before the first coat of paint, but I did do it, and it is a good idea to do this before each coat to knock off any debris that's caught up in or onto your last paint coat. The carpet in here has both browns and grays speckled throughout it, so it really works well with this paint. I also made it a point to choose the floor coverings throughout the rest of the house to have the browns and the grays, and you can see that in different shots of my videos that there's browns and grays in my vinyl planking. And even though the tiles that I chose for the bathrooms are more on the beige side, there's still a little bit of grays veining through or highlighting through. I just chose this fawn brindle color because I thought that it was unifying the whole house as well as this room from different finishes that I have chose. And it should work well for anyone coming into the space. In Nova's room, I showed how to save time while painting trim if you know you're going to paint the walls. That didn't work in this room. I actually had my first showing as I was getting the walls skimmed and sanded back, and all of that patchwork was showing, so I thought that it was better for me to go ahead and paint the walls so they all looked uniform, even though it still would need a second coat. um, it still just was more of an obvious thing that needed to be addressed than the trim was at that point. This is also a great opportunity to show you a technique in painting trim so that it doesn't get on the walls. So I love this zebra square brush. It really helps you get on that top ledge of the trim without getting any pushed up onto the walls. The trick is you only want a minimal amount on the end of your bristles, and if you get more than that amount on your bristles, you can unload it onto the face of the trim before working just the amount that you need on the end of the bristles up on that top edge. I went ahead and I did 2 coats of paint on the trim, so it's nice solid coverage all the way around the room again. And certain areas like this inside trim piece to the windows, because that was put in by the window installers when they replaced the windows, so it was never the same color of white that the other trim was. And the door that I sanded down and the jamb as well. All of those areas took more than 2. I believe even in the door and the jamb area, that was more like 4 coats of paint to catch it up with full coverage. And when it came to the door jambs for the closet and the entry door, as well as the door that I had built, again, this was touched on in Nova's room redo. But these, when I first built them, which I built all the jambs and the doors, when I first built them, I used a paint with the primer in it. But as time went on, there was bleed through from the knotty pine. Well, I've learned a lot since then, and now I've sprayed all of these areas with shellac, and I've repainted them and got all the areas where the bleed through was until there was full coverage. In some of these areas, it was 3 coats. But now you can see this room in the final reveal that all of the trim, all of the doors, every little step of details makes this space pop as far as a good clean finish. And these kind of details are what catches people's eye, whether they know what it is that makes it so much cleaner and better or not, it still will grab people's attention. Now look at this close-up of the carpet. You can see the grays and the beiges mingling all together, And in the lighting of this pic, the wall color is looking more gray, but in the lighting on this other picture, it is looking more brown. And here are a couple of my refinishes that look great in this room. The desk was an upload within the last month, and this divider screen was an upcycle from the bifold doors within this house because I hate bifold doors, which is why you see curtains on all of my closets. But you can see that the colors within these pieces work well with the color of wall that I chose. Most likely by the time you are watching this video, the kitties, Potion and Pooh Bear, will have been moved out. Pertaining to my followers, as you know, Nova's already moved out. Ginger went with her a couple weeks ago and is establishing well in the new house. And now Nova is ready to take Poo Poo and Popo with her as well. So this kitty station won't be in this room anymore. And I don't know, it's just more comfy bodies out of my house, leaving me lonelier and lonelier. What can I say? Life goes on. Don't feel bad for me. You know, you all have been there before too, I'm sure, or will be. It's just something we all have to go through. Empty nest? Not quite yet. I still have my foster child, football, and of course I'm always going to have Gam Gam. So there's that. So tell me, how many final reveals does this space have? I mean, I guess it's a good thing I don't have just an endless amount of money to spend. And anyways, I'm just using the space as I can until, I don't have any things left here in the house anymore. Oh, football's next, I guess. Can you imagine how many times I would change my mind if I had an endless amount of money instead of just limited to plucking things around different parts of the house? I mean, I've already changed my mind on how I was going to set this room up 3 different times before I was even done editing the video. I'm just kidding. I really don't work like that anyway, as far as going out and spending money and like momentarily changing my mind. And anyway, for all of you who stayed with me to the end, thank you very, very much. I do greatly appreciate it, and I hope you found something useful in this video. In the future, I plan on building a more educational tutorial style series that shows you like clearly step 1 through step whatever on how to achieve all of these different things that you guys have been seeing me do with all of my past videos. If you have something that you would like me to address more clearly, because up to the point I get to for building this series, it's pretty much just been an overview kind of showing you as I go through it, but not like teaching you. So if there's anything that you guys would like addressed more clearly and more specifically, please leave your comments below. I really do enjoy hearing from you. As always, I can't leave without asking you to make sure you hit that like button, the thumbs up, and if I've earned your appreciation for my channel content, please subscribe. It's a small gesture that really helps me out greatly. And don't forget, if you're somebody who likes to get the information right away, hit that notification bell so you get my videos as soon as they're uploaded. Until next time, stay safe out there.